Hello everyone. Enjoy the video. Jack and Tien quietly enter the abandoned orphanage, intending to find clues about the child. But amidst the darkness and dust, they discover a shocking secret, one that could change everything. Forever. Join me in discovering the truth. In the cozy living room of the wooden house on the hillside, Tien, Jack and Jack's mother were sitting together, the late afternoon sunlight filtering through the window, creating soft streaks of light on the floor. The quiet atmosphere was filled with the ticking of the wall clock and the gentle scent of herbal tea. Jack's mother spoke first, her eyes looking at her son with concern. "How's the farm renovation going, son?" Jack sighed, gently turning his teacup. "It's been raining heavily every night these past few days. The ground in that area is soft. The machines can't work, so we have to take a break for a few days." Jack's mother nodded sympathetically, while Tien remained silent, her eyes staring out the window. The image of the mysterious child who appeared yesterday, and the strange red silk scarf she saw, still lingered in her mind. "I'm free today," she thought. "Maybe I should go back to the old orphanage and find out more about the truth behind that scarf." The thought kept lingering in her mind, urging something very vague but also very real. She turned to Jack, about to speak up but then fell silent, deciding to keep the idea to herself a little longer. The mist still hung over the grass along the road, and Tien and Jack left the house, heading toward the western outskirts of town, where they had read about the orphanage that had closed 2 decades earlier. It was a remote hilly area, rarely visited, and the trees grew thickly, as if hiding the traces of the past. On the small path leading into the forest, Jack drove slowly, stopping occasionally to look at the old paper map they had printed out from an archive. Tien turned the lotus embroidery over again, this time looking more closely. Next to the lotus, there was a very small symbol, almost faded by time, 3 dots arranged in a triangle. "It seems like this is more than just a decoration, it looks like a secret symbol," she said softly. Jack was silent, but his eyes were already filled with vigilance. The deeper they went into the forest, the colder and eerily quieter the air became. Finally, they stopped in front of an old house, its walls covered with thick moss, its tiled roof falling apart in patches. On the door, a wooden sign hung crookedly with only the faint words, "Newlife Orphanage 1978. "This is it," Jack said softly. They pushed the door open and entered, the wooden floor creaking underfoot. Inside were scattered rusty iron beds, small desks, and a few dusty old toys. But what made them stop was a large photo hanging crookedly on the wall, a group photo of the children and their caregivers from the past. In the right corner of the photo, Tien was stunned to see the 3-dot symbol embroidered on the chest of a young nurse. "Who is she?" she muttered. Suddenly, footsteps sounded behind them. They both turned around. An old man with silver hair, leaning on a cane, was standing right at the entrance. He looked at them slowly, his eyes deep as if he had been waiting for this meeting for a long time. "You two came to find the truth about the child, right?" Tien and Jack were stunned. "Who are you?" "I was the last volunteer doctor at this orphanage. And that piece of cloth," he pointed at Tien's hand, "belonged to one of the most special children here. A child that many people wanted to hide, forever." The atmosphere seemed to freeze. The truth was about to be revealed. But were they ready to face it? The atmosphere in the old orphanage room seemed to thicken as Mr. Tam, the old doctor, began to tell his story. His voice was hoarse, each word carrying a layer of dust from time. 20 years ago, a child was brought to this orphanage in the middle of a rainy night. No one knew where he came from. Only a masked woman entrusted him to her and then disappeared. That child had a very special mark on his wrist, 3 dots arranged in a triangle. Exactly like the piece of cloth you are holding. Jack clenched his fist. Tien looked at him and asked quickly, "Where is that child now?" Mr. Tam was silent for a moment and then shook his head. "He disappeared on a night when the orphanage burned down. Everyone thought it was an accident. But I always suspected that someone deliberately erased the traces of that child. And now, another child has appeared, carrying the same mark. Outside, it suddenly rained. Tien looked out the window, suddenly feeling an indescribable unease. Was the child they found that day somehow related to the child from years ago? Or was it returning once again to complete what was left unfinished? It rained all night. The next morning, as soon as the rain stopped, Jack and Tien returned to the old orphanage with Mr. Tam's permission. They decided to search the room that had been used as a medical room, where he said he had kept records of all the children living there. The filing cabinets were covered in thick dust. The nameplates had peeled off, and there were scattered papers rotting over the years. Among the pile of old papers, Tien found a stack of documents tightly clipped in an envelope sealed with red wax, with only 2 words written on the outside, "Note." She opened it with trembling hands. Inside were the medical records of a child without a name, only the code, X23. Date of admission, July 2004. Condition, abandoned. Body showing signs of biological experimentation? The last note was torn, but a few blurred lines remained. The child must not be made public, must be kept absolutely secret, if anyone finds out. Jack gritted his teeth, his eyes darkening. He pulled out an old photo pressed between 2 sheets of paper, a child with wide, expressive eyes, and on his wrist, 3 dots arranged in a triangle were clearly visible. It can't be, this is the child from back then. But if he disappeared, then why is there another one exactly like him now? Su Xian turned to look at Jack, her lips moving. Someone is trying to do something again. And this new child could be just the beginning.
Mẹ là tất cả, mẹ là ngọn gió mùa thu, êm đềm thổi mát, sớm du giấc nồng. Mẹ là ánh sáng trong lòng, dìu con đi giữa bão giông cuộc đời. Mẹ là tiếng hát ơi, du con từ thuở nằm nôi đến giờ. Mẹ là giọt nắng ban trưa, sưởi con ấm áp giữa mùa gió đông. Mẹ là biển cả mênh mông, yêu thương không hết, chờ mong suốt đời. Mẹ là nước mắt không lời, âm thầm rơi lúc con rời xa quê. Dẫu đi muôn nẻo đường mê, tim con luôn hướng quay về mẹ yêu. Mẹ là tất cả sớm chiều cho con, tất cả chẳng nhiều cho thân.